Well, hello and welcome to the World of Zwift. We're here with another dose of all that is good in this fine, pixelated world. So let's take a look at the magic I've got wedged up my sleeve like a reluctant dove. UCI Cycling eSports men's world champion Jason Osborne talks us through how it was that an Olympic rower beat pro cyclists in a bike race. Matt Stevens and Nathan Guerra, they join me to discuss this week's explosive action across the ZRL divisions. I sample some of the finest cocktail-based sports fuel money can buy. Former hour record holder and level 28 Zwifter Alex Dowsett takes us through his Pro Rider Recon. It's all about music and this week's shit-hot bike stuff. Frankie Hall and Josh Loudon will be dropping by for a chat about all things Drops of the Collar as they join the ZRL Premier Division party. And we have another brand new feature for you, A to Zwift. But remember, if you don't want to miss out on any of the amazing content, celebrity chats, and downright hilarious lols, that's lols with a double Z, why not subscribe to the channel? It's as easy as one click, so do it! Do it now, I'll hold. Excellent, done, fabulous. This week in the wonderful world of Zwift, Z Pro tries back and it's bigger than ever. For the first time, the competition will feature running. So 2 bikes, 1 run, and lots of happy people enjoying some Type 2 fun. How will they do that? I hear you cry at the screen. Well, I don't know, but Z Pro Tri expert Matt Lietto will be on the show next week to let us know all the ins and the outs. And if you're a fan of triathlon, why not subscribe to the Zwift Power Up Tri podcast, where Jay Dickeray, the ultimate PT, helps runners, cyclists, triathletes get better. Spoiler, stretching doesn't work. So that's bought me 15 seconds back every day. Speaking of podcasts, Yanto Barker was on the Power Up Cycling podcast to reveal the fancy new IRL kit for all of you Tour de Zwifters. And the Movistar Team Challenge begins on February 3rd. It is a brand new talent ID program set up to help create a standalone esports team under the Movistar banner. Hundreds of the top Zwift riders have been invited to take part. My invitation obviously still in the post, but you could have a shot at being part of the team. You just need to get past the qualifying round. Then you can test yourself against the best of the best. Good luck. And the Xterra Off-Road Series is back, a 6 weeks training regime inspired by Xterra's scenic locations. Now, these workouts will take you on a journey through 6 iconic Xterra races: Beaver Creek, France, China, Tahiti, Canada, and Maui. And the Tour de Zwift travels on, and the jungle is this next stop. 3 different routes, lots of fun to be had. Just make sure you pick some fat tyres on your bike for that one. Race day 3 of the ZRL, and what an evening of racing it was. We had some new names at the top of the chart, some dominant team performances, and of course, the unstoppable high note. What's new?
This week, we head to Innsbruck for the KOM after party.
3 laps, including the leg snapper 3 times. It's a brutal course out there today.
Look at some of the power that's been dropped. 9 watts a kilo, just saw 11, 12 watts a kilo. We're just heading towards the sprint point here. A few power-ups being used now. Ingo Reichardt of the Kirkmare e-racing team. Oh, it's going to be very, very tight indeed. Carol from Mel from Glendes. Evans on the front, being overtaken now. Havard Glendes of the Callas e-racing team. Another very, very hard-fought sprint.
Look at that, a flurry of power-ups.
All the power-ups have been dropped. Reichardt takes that ahead of Glendes of the Callas e-racing team.
This has gone full gas now. You can see multiple splits.
Holton, Jones and McGlinchey now have 4.5 seconds over Corey Williams.
Corey Williams, he helped shut that break down.
The riders being dropped at the relentless pace. 1 kilometre to go. Ikeda is clear. This could be an absolutely sensational win. Obet takes the lead. Obet with a perfectly timed sprint takes the win ahead of Lana Biasan. Takato Ikeda in 3rd.
What a race.
It's a women's race, Innsbruck for the KOM after party. It is Louise Huback, Lethbridge up the front. Who is going to take this? Is so close. Cecilia Hansen from Shayna Paulus. Only 41 riders in that group. There was a big split on the leg snapper.
It's a big gap to the group behind, 20 seconds. flurry of power-ups here. Gradient 8%, and this is where it really starts to bite.
Cold cloth of Vision E Racing, and Wright is there as well. Great riding there by Jamili Wright of the Onion Racing team. Curie now taking the lead for I Race Like a Girl. Tracy now in front. Jamili Wright 2 from 2 there. We now have a group of 34 riders in the front coming into the climb. This climb has really started to rip this field apart. Curie goes again. Big acceleration by Curie here. It's Kulczynski who comes straight back up the American with another surge going clear. There are some power-ups left in the tank. Curie looks like she's going to take her second win. Catherine Curie takes the win for I Race Like a Girl. Joss Loudon in second for Drops the Cold.
A great battle there between her, Loudon and Kulczynski.
An absolute thriller.
My next guest is the man who knows everything there is to know about the ZRL, the man, the myth, the Matt Stevens. Matt, how are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thanks, OJ. Yes, great racing as ever. This season 2 is proving to be something pretty special, I'll tell you. It
very much is so, isn't it? So talk to me about how exciting the racing was this week in both the men's and the women's.
It was firstly we had a cracking course. It's the biggest hill we've ever used for the Zwift Racing League. We finished up the climb in Innsbruck with the precursor being the 3 loops at the bottom of the circuit, the top end of the day. It was just really attritional, super fast-paced racing. But what I loved about it was the way that when we got to the climb, everybody just let rip. It was really difficult to predict. So riders were willing to take a gamble, take a risk to try and rip it up. So it was super exciting right the way down to the last few hundred meters. We still didn't know who was going to win. So as just pure entertainment, it was lovely to watch. And that's obviously what we want to try and do, is entertain people as well.
It was great to see Legion taking their first win, and it shows what a great signing Freddie Ovett has been for them.
Yeah, that was a super signing. I mean, he really did. I mean, he climbed well. He saved that all-important power up to the end. But what impressed me the most as well, arguably even more than Ovett's win, because he is a proven winner on Zwift, was the way that the Legion of Los Angeles gelled as a team. Did you see the way Corey Williams earlier on was the man that shut down a couple of very dangerous moves and then obviously swung off to let Freddie go for the climb? So they're not just winning on an individual kind of basis. They're gelling together really well as a cohesive unit.
What's been great in this second season, and towards the end of the first season as well, is the emergence of new talent. On the women's side of things, Catherine Curry seems to be the women's rider of the moment.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, 2 wins now. She won on Richmond from that small group, in that little that small group bunch kick, showing she's got the chops on the small punchier courses. And I certainly didn't expect to see a win in the manner that she did the other day as well. So 2 wins from 2 in the points race. So I think she's one of the most spectacular all-round riders we've seen come to the fore. We know that I Race Like a Girl have been around a little while now, but boy, she has really kind of announced herself onto the scene. She is one of the riders to watch without a shadow of a doubt.
When I was chatting to Dave last week, we were talking about some of the community teams. He got very excited about Kirchmeier. Now, they very much are the vanguard of these community teams who are absolutely throwing down in the Premier Division.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they kind of came to the fore with that unbelievable performance, really impressive performance in the team time trial. To finish second, they set the leaderboard light pretty much for the whole day. And then they finished 6th the other day. And I think a rider I'd really have to pick out is the German Johannes Reckenauer, who was 6th on the day up at Innsbruck, but was really aggressive throughout. So it just shows how strong the community leagues are. And while we're on the subject of teams that have made it up into the Premier Division, I've also got to pick out as well from the Zwift Warriors team is Takato Aikida. What a ride by him as well. 3rd on the day. And again, really aggressive, happy to show his hand earlier on the climb and think things out. So it's great to see new names to conjure with as well.
Matt, has anyone tried to scout you yet for one of their teams?
No, I think a lot of the emails from the teams must be in my spam folder, so I'll check a little bit later.
Matt, always a pleasure. Good to see you, buddy.
Cheers, mate.
Now, I want you to imagine training for the 2020 Olympics, only to find out that it's been postponed. What do you do for the rest of that year in lockdown? Learn how to make the perfect sourdough? Maybe become an expert in wearing a shirt and pyjama bottoms whilst conducting important work video calls? Or maybe, how about winning the inaugural UCI Cycling eSports World Championships? Well, the latter very much applies to Jason Osborne.
We wondered who could win. We were expecting surprises today. It's the 26-year-old from Germany, Jason Osborne, who is the first ever men's world champion in UCI Cycling eSports.
Jason, you are a champion rower. You know what it takes to win in that sport. How does this compare?
Well, I do know how to obviously hurt myself a lot.
It's another acceleration from Osbourne. Look at that, 12 watts a kilo.
I took that strength from rowing to cycling today, and it worked really well.
In the end, both things hurt when it gets important, and the pain never gets easy. When I crossed the finish line and I heard some people asking, did you expect him to win? And then my doubles partner said, well, yes, obviously, of course I did.
Osbourne is out there for Germany. There's the power-up view, and the finish line is in sight.
Many people probably underestimated my capabilities. My Strava profile is public, but the big names, they don't really search on Strava, and so for them it was an underdog and they didn't add me on their list. So that was probably a huge plus factor for me. Do I think cyclists are annoyed to get beaten by a rower? That's a good question. Yeah, I think probably yes. The answer is always yes. If someone comes from cycling, beats me in a rowing race, I would be f***ed up. I think it was when I was 10 years old. My dad introduced me into rowing. I think my first ever regatta, I've won it. So from that moment on, I was quite stuck to it and kept going until today. I think it was getting more serious when I was winning the German championships in 2 boat classes 2 years in a row. Now we established ourselves in the top 3 in the world. So the goal now is to really get a medal at the Olympics, and yeah, that's what motivates you and keeps you going. In 2012, my coach advised me to get a road bike because it would be some good alternative training besides rowing. From that point on, I was always comparing myself with other cyclists, saw my numbers, saw them develop, and then compared them to other pro cyclists, always set the goals high and compared to the best cyclists out there. I'm keen to try cycling, and other guys have shown that it can be done. Not saying that I will be the same Primož Roglič, but why not try something new?
It's a German 1-2 right now with Ronesrap and Jason Osborne behind.
My sporting idol would be similar characters for what I'm aiming for. Obviously guys that accomplished successful cyclists and came from other sports. If I have a precise character, I think it would be Cameron Wurf, because he has the same background as me. He was a rower also, and competed at the Olympics in the same boat class as I do, in the lightweight double. He became a pro cyclist afterwards. It's also something on my bucket list which I want to achieve, maybe going for the world record on Everesting, I don't know.
I think we can all agree that fueling on the bike is important, both indoors and out, but then so is flavour. So I'm on a one-man mission to find the wildest, weirdest and most wonderful tasting cycling fuels and snacks on our beautiful planet. Now this week, for all you Zwifters who are maybe coming to the end of dry January and are looking to find the perfect non-alcoholic cocktail in a gelatin-based ride snack, I bring you Cliff Box Energy Chews Margarita flavour. So I think the only thing now is for me to give you a taste test as we open it up. So, I'm a bit of a fan of margaritas. I'm gonna be honest with you, initial taste, that is nothing like a margarita I've ever had. It's like a weird salty aftertaste which is now stuck in my teeth. Would I eat another one? Yes, I would. I can even taste the salty rim. Time now to get up to date with all that is happening in the ZRL's community divisions. And for the first time this season, we talked to Guerra. Nathan, how are you, my man?
Hey, OJ, I'm doing great, thanks.
Well, listen, I've been catching up with some of the community racing. You guys are having a lot of fun. It's as fun as it is fierce when it comes to the racing.
Oh yeah, it's tons of fun. And really this has come out of this interaction between the viewership, the teams, as well as the talents.
Let's talk about what's happening on the men's side. Beast Mode, they're tearing it up. The story behind Beast Mode is interesting as well, isn't it? How they came about.
Yeah, I mean, Beast Mode, this crew, it's called Beast Mode Crew, and they came kind of out of the woodwork a little bit. I think the reality of the UCI World Championships is why, because their coach is an e-racing coach of the German national team, as well as the coach that brought Jason Osborne to a win in the World Championships.
Which is the point. I mean, and that was the reason that we did the World Championships. The reason the World Championships happened was to bring all these people who either weren't familiar with it or hadn't given it a try yet, and all these great new racers are flooding onto the platform.
Yeah, they actually picked up, it looks like a couple of UCI pros are already on the team. They both have, on the men's and the women's side, a ton of depth. On the men's side, they're racing at the top end against one of the top community teams that's been shooting for the Premier Division, against DPAC Elite. They're going neck and neck with them in the APAC. And the women's side, Beast Mode are right up there with teams like Socks for Watts, Turbo, who's got Leo Thorvaldsen, first Zwift Academy winner, also as the BRT Kittens. So Beast Mode are on the scene and they've made a huge splash.
Well, you mentioned the women's side of things. Just bring me up to date with what's happening there at the moment, Nathan.
Yeah, so the top end racing is really happening in the EMEA and the European, Middle East, and Africa with a four-way battle, actually. Turbo, Beast Mode, Socks for Watts, and BRT Atomic Kittens. They're going all out in that Division 1.
What I think has been wonderful this season, Nathan, is with the community divisions, you are focusing not just on the pinnacle, not just on the top few teams and the top few battles, but trying to take the full breadth of everyone that is racing.
Yeah, we really wanted to give everybody a highlight as much as we can. But at the same time, there's kind of this tension of like, if you try to serve everything, you end up serving nothing. So what we've focused on then this season is that we're moving through the divisions for the first 6 weeks. And then the last 2 weeks, we're gonna go back to the top. So we're trying to make our way through every single division that has a larger breadth, especially in that European. We have, I think it's like 16 different divisions. So we're working our way through all of them, getting some highlights out there and trying to make sure everybody gets as much coverage as we possibly can across all the categories.
And what do you think we're going to expect to see over the next few weeks, do you think, racing-wise?
Everybody's got a part to play. So I'm super excited about how people are going to show up for the races with a lot of tactics because they're really doing their homework, it seems like.
Nathan, as always, you've excited me to see more of the community racing. Thank you very much.
Thanks, OJ.
Shit hot bike stuff now, and this week I've decided to focus on music. Now, while some of you out there, I am sure like nothing more than the immersive game sound of Zwift. Not knocking it at all, or maybe the hypnotic buzz of just your fan to serve as ambiance whilst exploring every corner of the jungle or racing round Crit City. Many of you, like me, will want the perfect soundtrack to your workouts or races, which begs a question. Do you go full volume on the biggest speakers you can find so the neighbors can't hear you scream, or instead noise cancelling earbuds so you can't hear them scream or anything else for that matter? Well, apart from the hip hop, classic rock, death metal, dubstep, yodeling or barbershop quartet of your choice, whatever gets you moving. If it's the second option, then you're in luck because, well, there are loads of earbuds out there, few are quite so perfectly formed as Rafa's offering to music aficionados. Alongside Scandinavian sonic powerhouses Bang and Olufsen, Rafa have created these little nuggets of joy, which I've been Zwift testing for a few weeks now, and even through the literal litres of sweat I've exposed them to, they are still crystal clear and a snug fit. Whilst riding a bike with noise-cancelling headphones outdoors comes with inherent risk of death, indoors these puppies are perfect. Now, like all things Rafa, they aren't the cheapest game in town, but if you can stretch your budget, enjoy nothing more than music while you Zwift and don't want the neighbours to call the cops, and these might be just worth a look. And look at the packaging. Yes, I am that sad. In review, B&OMG. And if I can for you, because this is one of the joys of Rafa, if I can read the marketing blurb on the back, just the final sentence, and I think this sets it all up perfectly. With music, your training is transformed. Basements become mountaintops. Garages, great venues of cycling lore. Music makes you faster. Amen. It is now time for a brand new feature. I bring you A to Zwift, where we'll find out everything we ever wanted to know, but we're too afraid to ask. And today, the World of Zwift is brought to you by the letter D, the letter P, and the number 8.1.
D is for draft. As you may remember from science class, energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be saved. You've only got so many matches to burn, so keep some in the box. Witness the draft. Pretty colors, right? That's the draft cone, and is where you should be if you want to preserve your watts. You won't see any colored draft zone when you're riding, but you will see your avatar sit up on the hoods just like this cool guy. That means you're right in the draft and saving energy. Moral of the story? Learn the draft, my friends. P is for Zwift's very own Power Up podcast. Coaches Matt Rowe, Greg Henderson, Christian Armstrong, and me, Rassam Bahati, talk training, nutrition, racing, and everything else with cycling and triathlon royalty. .1 is for 8.1 watts per kilo. That's the power per kilogram of her body weight that 2020 Zwift Academy winner Neve Bradbury put out for 30 seconds as she rode away from her nearest rival Natalia Franco at the top of Alpe de Zwift in December's finals. But hold on! Neve had just matched the Colombian climbing specialist watt for watt all the way up the Alpe for 40 minutes. And then she unleashed the 8.1 watt per kilo effort for 30 seconds to take the massive win. Wow, if she was putting out any more power, she may just take off. Neve Bradbury is certainly one to watch out for in 2021.
After their success at the inaugural virtual Tour de France with multiple stage wins and third place overall, UCI Women's Continental Cycling Team drops the col are storming into 2021 with new sponsors, new riders, and a wildcard entry into the ZRL. Joss Loudon raced to an impressive third place finish on Monday night, and I caught up with her and the eSports DS Frankie Hall earlier in the week to see how they've been getting on. It is great to have you here. Frankie, let me start with you. You were brought onto a road team to look after e-racing. How difficult was it to convert everyone to being on Zwift and racing on there?
So I think it was definitely a learning curve. I don't think a lot of the riders had experienced Zwift before, so the thought of racing on a turbo was not too enticing. But as soon as we started getting involved in the Tour for All and then the Tour de France, a lot of people came round and saw the bright side of turboing.
One person is you, Joss, because I know you were sceptical for about one race until you fully got into Zwift.
Yeah, I just hadn't ever done it before, and then did the first race, and I was just like absolutely buzzing. I was like, oh, I really feel like I've raced. I mean, I was as like boxed as if I'd raced. So yeah, I was completely converted.
As a rider, you must be all about that competition. It must have been great to get that competitive feeling.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a mixture of the kind of the buzz that you get from competition, and also it sounds weird and maybe a bit masochistic, but the buzz that you get from completely flooring yourself that you don't get unless you're competing. Yeah. So yeah, ticked both boxes there.
Frankie, talk to me about this then, because how did you go from a Zwift novice, which you were, to now being the DS in charge of Zwift for a pro team? How have you worked this whole learning curve out?
I learned how to play the game as well as ride it. I was living in the house in Derby with 5 other cyclists, and John, one of the guys, is an avid Zwifter, and he was already at level whatever, and it was just we'd come back from camp and I was ready to race, and there were no races, and I got involved, and I just got, honestly, I still am addicted, but I just got hooked, and it was like, how can I do this in the most efficient way possible? I'd never done any sort of de-essing before, and my race experience is actually pretty minimal. So when people were like, Frankie, how the hell have you managed to get a gig as a DS? You don't know how to do it. And I was like, well, I'm learning. And it seems to be working so far. So long may it continue.
Well, Joss, this is a question which might have a fluid answer because the team is entering 2021. You've got new sponsors and a secured future. What are the goals? What are the goals for this year and the years coming up?
Ooh. I think that it's going to be, I suppose, to get some good results, to get lots of days racing, and to show what I suppose the team is actually capable of. So like 2020 we started and we had a really good start to the season with the Tour of Setmana Ciclista Valenciana, and like it kind of showed what we could do, and then of course the year didn't really happen for us. So I think that having the sponsors that we do and the team that we have and the fact that we all get on so well, I think that we can see some good results this year.
Well, I think it's going to be a fabulous 2021, and I think watching you guys race has been great. So Frankie and Josh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Former hour record holder and level 28 Zwifter Alex Dowsett takes us through his Pro Rider Recon. You lucky thing.
Hi, I'm Alex Dowsett and welcome to a course recon on what I think is the toughest course that there's going to be. And it's 3 laps, we're in Yorkshire, it's the world's road race course, and here we go. I'm a specialist in not winning Zwift races because I've really learned all the ways in which you can lose one. I think this has got the potential to be one of the hardest Zwift courses there is. I'll give you a run through on this course on where you can lose this race. So hopefully you don't make those mistakes and you can win it. I think for this, you've just got to be really prepared to commit right from the start. Around about the 2 kilometre mark, we're going to flatten out and start a bit of a downhill. First little bit of respite, or might have to jump on it to try and move up a few positions as well. Nothing's going to happen on the first lap, but you're going to get a feel for how strong you are within that bunch. I would be riding super conservatively on this first lap. This first climb, it's a plateau for about 200 metres at the top. Stay on the gas, make sure you're in a good position for that downhill and you'll get into that super tuck a little bit earlier. I would perhaps try and turn the pedals backwards a little bit just to keep your legs turning, because the kicker after a super tuck, after a huge effort like that is, ooh, it's not nice. Keep an eye on the right hand side of your screen where you can see everyone around you and the powers that you're doing. It's always surprising how little power you need to do in the draft in Zwift. So we're into the most significant climb of the day. First climb, I've had to shift to the little ring. We're at 8.3 kilometres, little mini roundabout. It'll be the last thing you feel like doing, but you've got to stay on the power, shift up a few gears, get that speed. 6%, this is win or lose the race, each lap for sure. This is where you've got to commit. Green banner, sprint time, is similar to the KRM, 3, 2, 1 points every lap. And this comes quite quickly after the comms, so there's going to be a lot of sore legs there. Not going to be seeing huge wattages for that sprint, I don't think. Straight out of the 90-degree right with 3k to go, that's the start of the sprint. Making sure you're staying top 10, so if you've got a power up, get ready to use it, and then only when you get to that inside 200, it's time to open up. Coming to the line in my own Zwift race, I've cleaned up the competition, cleaned up the sprints competition. I'm now going to clean up the overall. Here we go, little sprint, little sprint. Oh, yes! Won my first Zwift race.
And that's it for this week. So much to see and do on Zwift. For instance, Z Pro Tri, the Parrot Podcast, Xterra Off-Road Series, and the start of the Movistar Team Challenge. Make sure you join us again next week for more race highlights, more chats with amazing riders, more questionable flavoured fueling products, and you might even catch a glimpse of me on a bicycle. Until then, ride on.